Welcome to the dramatic reading of A Man and His Sandwich, an Absurdist Tragedy by Conor. This short story features the professional voices of Liam Prigmore, Bennett Donnelly, and Stanley Alger. Enjoy. Tick-tock, tick-tock. The clock on the wall drones on as an elevator dings in the back of the office. Click-clack, click-clack. Jonah's keyboard makes excessive noise as he endlessly pounds into it. The bland scent of the office perverts his nostrils. He is starving and just wants to eat his sandwich that's in the fridge. He is tired of finishing invoices and just needs that delicious ham and cheese sandwich. His mind is swamped with fantasies of how that sandwich is going to taste. His mouth waters as he stares at the luminous screen. His eyes race across the various numbers, not even conscious of what he's looking at. Sweat drips down his forehead. His yearning for that sandwich is becoming almost unbearable. Without his sandwich, Jonah's day would be literal hell. He looks at the dirty wall of his cube and sees his favorite poster. "Mr. Baboon is watching you," is written in red font across the base of the poster, and the big baboon stares at the viewer in disgust. Suddenly, the clock strikes 12. It's lunchtime. Jonah quickly stands and exits his cubicle. He swiftly maneuvers between his disgruntled coworkers. He trips and slides across the floor like an ice skater who has lost control. He regains stability and continues his journey through the maze of an office. Jonah needs to get that sandwich. It is literally the only part of his day that he looks forward to. Upon arrival in the kitchen, he scans for opponents. Will he have to fight his way to the fridge? Yes. Rob is standing right in front of the fridge, his stupid face halfway into it and his dopey, large hand reaching for something. Rob has been known to take other people's sandwiches, but not today. Jonah slides up next to him and nudges him to the side. It takes a few moments for him to actually move the thieving, befuddled behemoth, but Rob eventually moves over. He finally has access to the holy grail of the day. Jonah scours the fridge for his sandwich. He's looking for the white paper wrapping held neatly together with a rubber band, but it's not there. Jonah's sandwich is gone. His face contorts in disgust and shame. Where could his sandwich have gone? What could have occurred to conjure this unfortunate circumstance? He has no clue. Rob looks oddly innocent and peaceful, but Jonah feels the need to ask him anyway.
So, where's my sandwich?
He asks with a growl. Rob replies timidly. He was born in St. Petersburg, so when he's nervous, he replies in Russian.
Oh my God! Patruya Petrushki Bashkastai, Moldova, Nakshka, Bibbidi Babbidi, Prego.
Jonah is infuriated but accepts that Rob had no part in the sandwich theft. Now, if Rob had not taken the sandwich, who had? Jonah scans the kitchen and out of the corner of his eye, he sees the nebulous representation of cocottes hovering above the carpet and exiting. Rob goes back to the fridge and reaches for a bag, looking oddly serene. Jonah sprints past him, knocking him over in the process. Jonah leaps through the kitchen door, chasing the blurred blob of burning through the office. Once the representation of cocottes realizes it is being chased, it starts floating even faster. It floats like a cartoon character who just smelled a pie, or in this case, a sandwich. Jonah immediately deems the representation of cocottes guilty and screams,
Come back with my sandwich!
The indistinct aura of lonely desire is confused and just keeps floating away. Jonah tires and digs into his pocket to retrieve his lasso. He lassos the indescribable spirit that embodies longing and tugs it back.
Give me my sandwich, Mother Nugget!
Jonah says while hog-tying the presents. He mounts the detained depiction of desire and wraps his long, wiry fingers around its nebulous neck.
Sandwich.
The confused cloud of compulsion shakes its head in negation. A long, tongue-like membrane extends and stretches to point out the window.
Mr. Baboon!
Jonah says in awe and rage while a well-dressed baboon sits on the windowsill. He stands and sprints to the window. The representation of Cocottes waves goodbye using its membrane as Jonah leaps headfirst through the window. He crashes through the glass and extends his hands to grab the big baboon. He's evaded and begins to plummet. His life flashes before his eyes. Memories of his childhood race in front of Jonah. No matter what day it was or what was going on, he always had his sandwich for lunch. It was always a ham and cheese that was beautifully crafted. The delicate bread that held the sandwich together was always fluffy but flattened enough for stability. The cheese inside was always nice and cold, just the way Jonah liked it. The final component, the ham, was always lathered in mayonnaise and folded perfectly into layers. For decades, this has been the one consistent part of Jonah's day. This sandwich got him through college. Without this sandwich, he wouldn't have his job. Jonah's life and overall happiness relies on this sandwich. His miserable existence would be unbearable without the delicious ham and cheese. Jonah reaches into his pocket and pulls out a claw extender. He extends his arm back towards Mr. Baboon and fires. The claw soars towards the mischievous baboon, but misses by an inch. It grapples onto the power line, electrocuting Jonah. He spazzes out like a waterless fish and lets go of the claw. He plummets to the ground with a thunderous Jonah lies on the ground, pain and agony filling his fingertips. Mr. Baboon escapes with the sandwich. Mr. Baboon was known to steal office workers' sandwiches and bring them to the higher-ups. Jonah never expected he'd be a victim of such a heinous crime. He watches as his delicious sandwich runs away in the clutches of Mr. Baboon. Jonah's salvation, the sandwich that would give him the salivation to survive the rest of the day, is gone. He failed. How did he let this happen? He took it all for granted, and now what will he do? He can't just go the rest of the day without a sandwich. There isn't enough time to make one. Can he just violate all law and steal his sandwich back from corporate and Mr. Baboon? Could he? His eyes go red. Oh, hell yes, he can. Jonah slowly rises and sprints back towards the building. He crashes through the glass door and runs to the elevator. Once inside the elevator, he punches the top button. The time has come to end the corporate reign of sandwich terror. 5 minutes pass. He's only on the 3rd floor. Corporate resides on floor 59. This is going to be a while. Upon arriving at the 10th floor, the door reopens, and Rob enters the elevator. He's holding the bag from earlier and is on his way to floor 58.
What's in the bag?
Jonah requests.
Sushi.
Rob replies with a serene smile of contentment on his face. Jonah scoffs, disgusted by the different concoction of fish and seaweed.
It's honestly a lot better than sandwiches.
Rob replies plainly. Jonah nods negatively in reply.
You know, I was like you. I used to adore salami and mortadella sandwiches. But you know what happened? They were stolen from me. I was sent down a dark path. I stole other people's sandwiches. I was a monster.
He looks off into the non-existent distance with a tear in his eye.
My sandwich was stolen too, and I'm gonna get it back.
Jonah says in an attempt to comfort him. He looks a little uncomfortable and responds.
Why would you do that? That quest for your sandwich is going to hurt you.
Huh? I want my sandwich back, so I'm getting it back.
Jonah is perplexed.
Why would you fight for your sandwich when you can just accept what's happened and move on? You can't always be stuck with one form of lunch. Sushi isn't bad. I also recommend the buffalo wings in the cafeteria.
He says as the elevator dings at the 58th floor. The doors open and he steps out.
Don't do this, Jonah. You can't let a baboon's mischief ruin your life. Besides, in your own self-made happiness, not the happiness made from your sandwich.
He exits the elevator and the door closes with a clatter.
Imagine eating sushi instead of a sandwich.
Jonah scoffs at the idea while the elevator rises. Finally, a solid 45 minutes since he got in the elevator, he arrives at corporate. The metallic doors open with a clatter and alert everyone on the floor that a visitor has arrived.
Where is my sandwich?
Jonah shouts with unbridled fury. A sea of higher-ups parts in front of him, revealing a dead baboon at the end of the hall. The dead baboon has his sandwich in its cold grasp. It looks as though Mr. Baboon suffered from cardiac arrest before he could get the sandwich to the head honcho, the owner of the end office. Jonah stomps from one end of the hall to the other. He looks at the dead baboon and pries his sandwich from its stiff clutches. It's cold, as if he just removed it from the fridge downstairs. For a moment, he feels pure joy. His sandwich is returned, but someone must pay the price for the atrocity committed. He extends his hand to the double doors. He tucks the sandwich into his arm like a football and charges into the head honcho's office. Upon entering the office, Jonah witnesses the horror of corporate privilege. The office is littered with torn sandwich wrappings. The head honcho sits at his desk, the glutton covered in crumbs. His wiry limbs are disproportionate from his muscular torso. His neck is thick like a pipe that extends up to his massive skull. His head is massive, and it looks like all of the fat gained from eating sandwiches just goes to his head. His beady eyes look Jonah up and down.
I see you've delivered today's meal.
No! I haven't. This sandwich is mine and mine alone.
Jonah responds in a fury. The head honcho rises with incredible trouble from his chair. He rests his hands on his suspenders and slowly walks around the desk.
That sandwich is mine, young man.
The head honcho says with a dark and sinister tone.
It always has and always will be mine. Every sandwich here is.
He makes his way around the desk and then immediately leans against the desk. The desk dips forward a little bit from all the weight.
You will never taste my sandwich. The majestic ham and cheese was made for me. I earned it.
And so did I, maggot.
Honcho says while he stands abruptly.
Your work is for my betterment, my sustenance. So your sandwich is mine. Give it to me.
Jonah begins to unwrap the sandwich and reveal its beautiful wheat exterior. The head honcho salivates and drools all over his crummy shirt. Jonah uncovers the absolute magnificence of his sandwich, and it sparkles faintly in the light.
Give me the sandwich. I'm so hungry. Please, please.
The head honcho begs, totally enthralled with the sandwich, and falls to his knees. He drags his colossal cranium along the floor as he pleads and crawls towards Jonah.
That sounds like a you problem.
Jonah replies in a powerful tone. He lifts the sandwich like the Holy Grail and moves it towards his mouth. The head honcho screams in hunger and agony as Jonah's pursed lips touch the edge of the sandwich. A humongous shockwave reverbs through the entire room, sending the head honcho back into his desk. He sits upright and watches in horror as Jonah takes a massive bite of the sandwich. Darkness. The entire room is pitch black. The head honcho cannot see anything, let alone make out what happened to Jonah. A tiny light appears across from head honcho. The light expands into a sparkly silhouette of a tall, thin man.
What have you done?
Honcho replies in fright and wonder. The silhouette slowly moves towards the head honcho.
That sandwich, it's powerful. It must be destroyed.
Honcho says in an attempt to stop the silhouette. This fails and it marches onward.
Get away from me. Stop. I command you. If you come any closer, I will.
He is silenced by the silhouette's final step. The silhouette reaches its hand out and touches the tip of the head honcho's forehead. His thick and meaty skull explodes with sandwiches of different varieties, all coated in his blood. The shower of sandwiches expands and taints the landscape of the office. The head honcho is dead. The silhouette's light is only getting brighter. It extends down the hall, blinding all of the higher-ups. It reaches out of the office building and beyond the street. The light stretches to every corner of the city and then the state. It just won't stop. It continues until the entire continent is covered in its light. The silhouette is no longer a silhouette. It is a blinding being that parasitically is enveloping the entire planet. The light fades upon a new world. A new earth basks in the green glow of the sun. The stars sparkle around the reformed globe. On this planet, there is a man who is sitting in his office. His feet are kicked up on his desk, and he has a ham and cheese sandwich in his hand. He chomps away at the sandwich until it is nothing but crumbs on his tie. Rob knocks at the door and enters the office.
Head
Ed Jonah,
He asks in a very timid manner.
can I go on my lunch break? I'm really craving some sushi right now.
No. Get back to it. Have a salami and mortadella sandwich when you're done.
Jonah replies stoically. Rob exits the head Jonah's office and goes back to his cubicle. He reaches out to his keyboard and types away. His fingers bleed because each key is a tiny spike. He types away and begins to sob. Cries of pain are heard down the hall. The representation of Cocottes is floating in the center of the building, twirling like a ballerina. A collar is wrapped around its nebulous neck. It dances in the center of 4 glass walls. Every person who passes by the building can see the blurred ballerina making a fool of itself. It's a caged compulsion for something more fulfilling. That desire would be inadvisable given the current situation. Every onlooker is attached to a chain, linking them to each other. Every onlooker laughs at the prancing prisoner of propensity. Every onlooker laughs at each other's suffering. Every onlooker is holding a sandwich. Every onlooker is a slave to their lunch. This is a world of slaves. Tick, tock, tick, tock. The clock on the wall drones on in Head Jonah's office. Mr. Baboon's head hangs high on the wall. His sandwich wrapper sits on his desk, unfurled and crinkled like a mangled corpse. Jonah sets his hands on his suspenders, cracking a smile. His newly fanged teeth are coated yellow from a mixture of mustard and mayo. His skin is now ragged like an old tablecloth and his hair white with the age of 1,000 suns. His eyes glow white as he begins to cackle. His mangled and disturbed laugh reverberates throughout the entire planet as an earthquake. His maniacal manner has infected everything. His laugh shakes mountains as he thinks. All of this could have been avoided if he just got his damn sandwich when he wanted it. Jonah may have kept his humanity if the one part of his day that he looked forward to remained. Now everything is tainted. Everything is ruined. Everything is poisoned because one baboon kept a man away from his sandwich.